Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Pop Cult X. This is our Little Talks, where we chat with a wide variety of creative-minded people. Today, we're thrilled to be joined by an actress, filmmaker, producer, director, and everyone's favorite commercial reality checkup dentist, and that is Gigi Saul Guerrero. Welcome to the show.
Reality checkup. Yeah. Thank you so much. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's the weekend of Thanksgiving here in Canada as we record this. So it just means you gotta cheat every single meal
Yeah,
until Monday.
there you
That's
go.
exactly what it means. So
Now,
I'm
is
good.
that's great. Is the Canadian Thanksgiving the same as the American Thanksgiving? Do you just overindulge? Do you
Yes,
imbibe more?
very much so. Very much so. I mean, I'm from Mexico, right? So definitely I thought it was going to be the exact same thing as the American one or
Okay.
whatever it is I learned from the Addams Family movie. That's all I knew when I was little. And here, I mean, it's similar. Yeah, it is definitely the family gathering, the
Hmm.
celebrating, the giving thanks. Everyone does their speech, the turkey, the gravy. So still like the gringo type, the gringo type food. But I mean, for me, I love it. And then again, because there is no Thanksgiving in Mexico,
Right.
I love how here in North America people do Friendsgivings, and
Hmm.
everybody brings a
Hmm.
little bit, like a
Hmm.
potluck. So I'm
Yeah,
always like, oh, thank God I have friends, because then I just go to a few parties, right? And it's so much fun. But yeah, I'd say it's about the same thing.
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, Friendsgiving is fun, and yeah, that is. Um, you mentioned you were from Mexico City, so
Yes.
and one of your films is called Culture Shock. So before we get into the films itself, was it a culture shock moving up to Canada, coming from Mexico City?
Oh, huge, 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 huge. That's really what inspired the film,
Okay.
Culture Shock, and in the vision of it. As soon as I read that script, at the time it was called Crossing. I'm
Okay.
glad it changed. But it was called Crossing at the time. And this comparison of two different worlds
Hmm.
was exactly how I felt when I
Yeah.
moved to Canada from Mexico. And it really was the answer I would give people all the time. People would always be like, "Oh, Gigi, now that you've been here some time, what do you prefer, Mexico or Canada?" And I would always respond the same way. Like, I can't compare two different worlds, is something I
Hmm.
would always say. It's just, it's just black and white. You
Yeah.
can't even a little bit compare them. And Canada is like cultures all over the world, you know, colors all over the world, languages from all over the world. And Mexico is a very rich, specific,
Hmm.
culturally, spiritually heavy country,
Yeah.
of its own beliefs, its own faiths, its own traditions. So I'm always like, don't make me choose, man. Like I can't. Um, so that really helped the movie. Like it really helped the vision of it and pitching how the American dream looks a certain way and what Mexico, how it
Yeah.
looks a certain way. So yeah, it was a big culture shock for sure, for sure.
That's cool that you were able to use your own personal experiences into creating that film and that world within that film. That's
I mean, I think is what every filmmaker needs to do. You
yeah.
need to live your life. You need to know what it's like to go through failure, rejection, breakups, sadness, all the things that, we don't want to go through. But that's exactly how we build empathy and we
Yeah.
build
Hmm.
relatability and
Hmm.
being vulnerable. And I think that's exactly what makes a very good filmmaker is if you have that. And if you
Yeah.
are able to put so much of you in your films, then people are going to connect in some way, shape, or form. We
Hmm.
just have to be ready for trolls, and trolls are everywhere. And that you can't please everybody. So you have
Yeah,
to
sure.
really make this movie, to something that means something to you, even if you're exploding heads and doing all this gory stuff on it. But it's gonna mean something to you somewhere, or a line of dialogue somewhere.
Yeah.
You're like, that's a very me thing.
So you don't really want to explode someone's head. It's a metaphor for
Exactly. Yeah, something my mom will never understand, but she'll find out one day that I meant a message
there
behind
you
that.
go. Have you always been interested in creating film or being a filmmaker? Is that something that's been a passion throughout your life?
I love that question. No.
No? Okay.
No, no, it was totally a last minute discovery. In Mexico City, I went to a very intense, very strict German immersion school. And
Okay.
yeah, it was like
Mm,
it was one of like the better schools, and it was a not a public school, it was a private school. So my parents really wanted my sister and I to go there. And it was very sports
okay.
heavy school. It had a giant like Olympic size pool, the biggest track and field you could think of.
Ah,
Like it was big for soccer. It was just like a very, very intensive sports heavy school. And so I grew up with sports. Like I was ready to be the next athlete in anything.
right, right.
I was really good as a kid, really, really good. And I got really into tennis because my dad's like, oh, they make a lot of money. We got to make you be a tennis player, you know? And like, so my dad was putting us, especially me, in a lot of sports. So moving to Canada, first things first is I got to learn how to skate. So
Mm,
I got into
mm,
hockey
mm-hmm.
right away as a teenager and I
Wow,
loved
okay.
it so much. But film and acting came by total accident because I didn't know in the high schools here in North America, they have what you call an elective course. I don't know
Okay.
what that is. So I was
Hmm.
very late in signing up to what I thought is an elective course. I thought you just
Yeah,
show up and you
yeah.
got courses. So I was late to all the ones I wanted. I was clearly they were all booked. Like nothing was available except for drama and theater class. I
Nice.
was like, that one's easy to skip school. Like, I don't care. And the high school here in Canada that I went to was super heavy, super intense in all things arts and
Okay,
performance. The
okay.
theater they had was beautiful. And 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 sure enough, as soon as I started those classes that I thought I would skip all the time,
Hmm.
I got obsessed. I was like, Mom, Dad, I want to be a Broadway star, like now. And that's where the commercial world got in. My parents were like, well, maybe let's try this commercial stuff. And I did a lot of commercials as a teen, like for Zales Jewelry and Wonder Bread and just
Nice.
random stuff.
Okay.
But showing up to set is what was slowly kind of piquing my interest.
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
just like, what? Why does it take so many people to film a damn bread? I was like really impressed by the lights and the amount of people.
Hmm.
I couldn't believe it. So it was interesting to me. It wasn't quite the thing, but it was interesting.
Okay.
But but what got me into it, uh, and for context, I'm around 16 at this point, 16 years old. And I was really immature. So I'm the youngest sibling. So definitely I'm like the worst, right? I'm the reason there's no more. So I'm really immature. I only watch horror movies or anything Adam Sandler was in. Like I just didn't care about anything. My movie slate was like not very big. It was like
Yeah.
only that stuff.
Okay.
But what got me into film school during all this time, I knew that my sister was going on a date with a guy. And
Oh no.
I called up all my friends and I was like, we need to crash my sister's date. I know the movie, the theater, the time, let's go. And so we all snuck in. We had the popcorn ready to throw it at them. And then this movie started that completely, and I'm not even exaggerating, it just completely changed my life that I
Wow.
forgot
Okay.
why I was there.
Okay.
And it was Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men. I had never seen anything like that. Like again, all I would watch was a lot of comedies and horror.
Yeah.
That's all I watched and all I cared for. But as soon as this movie started, Children of Men, I honestly don't remember why I even went there. I forgot to bother my
Okay.
sister, and I'm watching this movie that completely changed my life, and I started to feel things. Film is
Yeah.
supposed to make you feel
Yeah.
things, and
It is.
I really saw a world, maybe because I come from Mexico, and one of the reasons of leaving was my parents were scared and
Hmm.
I wanted a better life, and this movie just made me kind of think a lot about humanity that I never did at the time. I never was mature enough to think about it and really think, holy shit, we're not far from that. Our
Yeah.
world is not far from this movie. and the message behind it, the filmmaking technique behind it. I also had never seen Warners like that. I've never seen anything like that, period. So
Right.
to me, Children of Men, I mean, it still stands today as one of the best movies ever made, but it impacted me. And when the movie was over and I had my jaw, like all the way to the floor, like, what did I just watch? The guy that my sister was going on a date with happened to be a film student at the university here.
Okay.
So he saw how impacted I was,
Yeah.
and he said to me, "Oh, well, I'm learning how to make movies like that in school." I was like, "You get to
Do
learn
that.
about movies in school?" He's like, "Yeah, it's called film school." I'm like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "What? There's such a thing after high school?" And yeah, it blew my mind. And what blew my mind even more is that he said, and I quote, "If you like this guy, you should probably check out his other two amigos, Del Toro and Iñárritu. They're all Mexican, all three of them." When he said that to me, Danny, it really, stories like that really do exist. And mine is one of them where you saw yourself in somebody. You
Yeah.
saw yourself
Yeah.
in that artist. And
Yeah.
I literally said to the date, my sister's date, a guy like me made that? Like it came out of me. And I was
Wow.
I was floored. I was floored. A Mexican made that. See, immediately I went home. I told my mom and dad, "Mom, Dad, I'm going to film school." And I just started watching all these movies, Amores Perros, y tu mamá
Mhm.
también, Cronos, and like all these movies that I was like, where have I been?
Right.
And all
Right.
these
Yep. Yep.
Mexicans. And
Hmm.
from there, it kind of led into like Robert Rodriguez and Tarantino, and like kind of went into that realm, which is similar to the stuff I do now. But that whole like Mexican American Spanglish vibe that the early work of Rodriguez had really influenced me because I was having a lot of trouble at that age adapting here in
Okay.
Canada.
Hmm.
So that whole Tex-Mex, I felt like it was a bit of both worlds. So,
Yeah.
but it completely changed my life.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah, so that's exactly
Wow.
like where I was like, I want to make movies like that. I want to, impact people.
That's
So, yeah,
that's such an amazing story. That is, thank you for sharing that.
of course.
That is so cool to hear that one film is just what triggers your path forward.
You
It's just
never know
amazing.
as an artist, right? Like you never know as an artist if it's a movie or an art piece or a conversation with someone or a horrible, horrible situation you got
Yeah.
in. You never know what's going to inspire the art side of you that you never knew was.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's the rest is history. Still trying to figure out how to make that movie, but all getting there.
now, of course, since your culture is important to you and sharing your culture, how do you use that perspective or how do Latinx or Latin filmmakers you bring that into the horror genre? How is that? How do you mold that into fit into your lens of the horror genre?
I love that. I think even this question was asked as well to Guillermo del Toro when he won for Shape of Water. I remember seeing an
Okay.
interview that they asked him the similar question, "Where do you get all these ideas? Like what
Hmm.
what what about you that you are able to do this?" And he's
Right.
like, "'Cause I'm Mexican." He
There
just
you go.
said that straight up. I'm Mexican.
Mexican.
I'm Latino. And I think he's very much right on that, and I related to that answer. And I think even furthermore with myself being also a woman, I
Yeah.
have even more fears and more sensibilities that
Hmm.
I can definitely share and talk about that I fear and that I think on. But I think us as Hispanics, we are so spiritually vulnerable and open. We have what we call magical realism.
Yeah.
We love believing in faith,
Yeah.
really. We love believing in magic. We love believing in fantasy and things that are not explained.
Yeah.
And we are also very open to the dark realms. We're very open to that stuff and we grow up. with our abuelos and abuelas scaring the crap out of us, before bed. My grandma always threatened me. I'm gonna get eaten alive. Always threatened me. I'm gonna be taken away, kidnapped, eaten alive. Everything you can think of. I got disciplined with to not do, with for that outcome. And so I think we just grow up with so much of these fears already since kids.
Hmm.
And also we have such rich folklore that it's so rich to share all about it,
Yeah.
especially like Mayan and Aztec and
Hmm.
anything indigenous,
Yeah.
it's so big, the world of it. I love it so much. That I'm a fan of believing it. I think you also have to be open to it. So things
That's a good
scare
point.
me.
Hmm.
I have yet to do anything with exorcisms and shit like that, man. Because I'm like I'm gonna wake up something on the set. The boom op's head is gonna like go in circles. Something's gonna happen, but it's because I believe in all of that stuff. I don't like to mess with that stuff. So the people are always like, "You're so superstitious." I'm like, "That's how I grew up." That's
Yeah.
that's exactly how I grew up, but we're also so present to so much danger and corruption and,
Hmm. Hmm.
quite, the things you experience in a third world country. And
Yeah.
I think that also is a reason why we have such strong faith, because it's kind of one of the only things we can rely on. So we really, really, really rely on the inch of hope that is there, which
Yeah.
is the faith
That's
that
true.
we carry as Hispanics. So we love believing in these legends. We love, and we're always hoping like Llorona's going to kill that one because we can't stand that guy down the street. So you know what I mean? Like we're always trying to use all we grew up with to throw it at someone. So yeah, I don't know if that made any sense, but I think
No, I
that's
got
why
no. That does.
we have so many layers, man. That's
You're like,
why.
take them.
Yeah, yeah, please, por favor. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I get scared. Like I really believe in all these things. My mom, I'll tell you a story. My mom, since it is the spooky season, my mom would always, and my uncle, her brother, when they were teenagers, they would always lie to my grandma that they were going to an after school program,
Okay.
like a music program after school. That's why they were always late. When in reality, they were going to a cult. Those two. No,
What?
I shit you not. My mom was part of this crazy mediums cult that they would mess around a lot with the Ouija board, a lot with just,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, connecting with the other side. And to
Mm,
the point where, because my mom and my uncle were too young, they really didn't take it so seriously and
yeah.
messed around a little too hard with it, and I got kicked out of it. So, and my mom had to get limpias, like
Yeah.
literally had
Yeah.
to go to the gypsies in downtown Tepito to get cleansed. The whole
Wow.
thing, because she just felt something was following her, attacking her, and all these things. And my mom has a lot of trouble talking about it. She gets pale. I'm
Mm,
hoping one day to dive into that movie, but
yeah. I want to see
she
that.
she can't. She can barely get through some of the experiences. She goes pale and goosebumps everywhere. And I've gone
Wow.
two or three out of her that are very good scenes from a Latino James Wan movie, but definitely there's so much more that she doesn't tell us. And so definitely I've grown up with a very, very Catholic house,
Mm,
very
yeah.
Catholic house.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So in a way, you could say that the horror films, if you were to create something like that, could act as like a catharsis for you in a way to process that trauma. So,
totally,
so
totally.
what approach, if you were to make that into a film, what would just brainstorm there? What would you like hope the audience would be able to take away from something like that?
I think, a lot of it has to do also, you want to throw the situation that's also relatable in real life for
Hmm.
any person,
Hmm.
whether you're going through grief, whether you're going through anything
Yeah.
like loss, whatever it is. I find that is the only way these movies work, because also if you're spiritually open, when you're feeling like that and you're going through the most negative time of your life, you're also very much a target for
Yeah.
all this evil to come your way. So I find like I would really approach to understand what were you going through, mom,
Mm,
that you attracted all this shit. You
yeah.
know, but like what were you going through? And I find like these movies really work when you can tell the human side of what
Yeah.
is going on with these
Yeah.
characters can happen to any of us. You look
Yeah.
at Hereditary, it's a very dysfunctional family going through grief. You look at
Hmm.
Babadook as a single mom going through
Hmm.
a very similar situation. Like everybody's
Yep.
going through a pretty traumatic, real experience.
Yeah.
So like that's something my mom's never been able to share with me. Is that, and that would be the main thing I would want to do to be able to brainstorm, you know,
Yeah. It's that's
and
the
go through
relatable
it.
part
But
of it. Yeah.
yeah, but I'll be honest. I mean, I've experienced pretty scary, spooky shit. And that's why I had to ask my mom all this stuff because I'm like, why am I experiencing all this? Back
Oh
when I
wow.
was a young teen. And yeah, my mom, till she opened up and told us she carries some baggage. And so I think a movie like that, I wouldn't rush it. I would
Yeah.
take my
Yeah.
time and do it
Yeah.
right. I would make
Yeah.
sure on that contract there's a priest involved too, you know, to show up on set, take care of us. Because I would want to make it as authentic as possible.
I mean, you're joking, but also serious about
I mean,
that, right?
I'm damn serious.
Yeah.
I am damn serious. The last movie when we shot a couple of years ago, our segment for Satanic Hispanics
Hmm.
was such a fun film. We really took it serious in our segment because we were playing with uh, indigenous folklore
Yeah.
of the Mayans of Nahuales.
Yeah.
You don't mess with that shit. And we went to the real birthplace of witchcraft in Catemaco to film. Like it's not
Wow.
just like I decided, oh, let's pick any jungle. No,
No,
I
you want
said, and my
we want
producer were
authentic.
like, we were going to where this is all born, where all the true horrific things happen. And in Catemaco, I mean, that's where politicians go under the radar to get their cleanses and to get all that Satanist blessings to win the election is not, it's
Wow.
not a simple place there. And it's where they do a lot of sacrifices too. That's where the big famous pentagram ritual happens is there
Hmm.
in Catemaco. So we were like, no, we're going there. And we had to go through some real things to film at that jungle. We had to ask the chamanes, the shamans that live there for permission. They
Yeah.
made us do the entire 35 people crew do the ritual to, you know, kind of pay our respects. We did a whole thing for it. But
Yeah.
spooky stuff kind of happens when you're in places like that. You know,
I
things
can
go
imagine.
missing, couple of our crew members got quite lost and were going in circles, would hear things, you know, like it you just kind of have to be okay with it in a way that, you know, you have to you'd have to just get through it. But that to me is how I want to make every movie. I just want to take my time and do it right.
That's cool.
Mm.
That is
Yeah.
so cool.
Thank you.
Um, Beyond being a filmmaker, you also are the co-founder of Luchagore Productions,
Yeah.
which is opens up into a wider realm of items for you, from comic books to other helping produce other films for other filmmakers, I presume. Tell me a little bit about that. How did that come to be for you to get involved with that? And who was that your brainchild there?
Yeah, I mean, Lucha Gore came with, you know, it happened with my two bestest of friends, with Rainer Shima and Luke Bramley, who I've worked with since film school.
Okay,
Rainer, he's the producer in all the things I do. Luke, he's the cinematographer in most of the things I do.
that's cool.
But we
That's
all
really
three
cool.
just wanted to have like a brand. We were like,
Yeah,
well, we're not really a studio yet, but what is our brand? Like,
right.
and that's something that was very important to me. I didn't want it to be the Gigi movie, the Gigi product, the Gigi. And I find, which is fine, a lot of filmmakers are their own brand. You know,
Hmm.
I think Eli Roth is an amazing, his own brand. We all know what that is, Tarantino and all them. But I really liked the idea of a name of a brand of types of films, you know, of what a studio does. Uh, and that was always a goal and a dream, kind of like you have Bad Robot or Atomic
Hmm.
Monster,
Yeah, yeah.
Blumhouse.
Monkey Paw. Yeah,
Monkey Paw, exactly. So A24 now that they're
yeah.
doing the coolest stuff. So that's the goal is what is Luchagore. and the play on words there, because we're all
Luchador.
wrestling fans,
Yeah, yeah.
that just it was a no brainer that's
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
and we love gore, so definitely that's where it came from, and we're big fans of like true classic genre.
Hmm.
Um, that we're really hoping, to continue to grow as a brand, which we've done great so far. But starting to really be more in the mentality than not just a brand, like a mentality of a studio, that we
Yeah.
can really help other filmmakers that have such great talent, that we can help them make their movie and use us as producers that only are there to support and make sure this vision comes true that we believe
Cool.
in. So
Awesome.
yeah, it'll take time. A lot of this, it's just the three of us, all of it. So it takes time, right?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a tough industry out there.
It is, and I like the fact that even though you're still working through it for yourself, building up your own filmmaking, you're already thinking about the next generation as well, and the other filmmakers. So I think that's very admirable of you to do that. I think
Oh,
it's
thank
really
you.
cool for you guys to create that environment where people can tell their stories. And
Agreed.
Luchador, I love the name. It is so cool.
Yeah,
It's like luchador and gore film. I already knew. I know what this is going to be as soon as I see the production house. I know exactly what kind of film I'm going to get. So it's really
that's
cool.
awesome. I love that. And I love that now we have an animated logo that we recently shared. It's so great. I'm like, man, I can't wait in theaters for that logo to come up first. And everyone's like,
Yeah,
yeah. Like, is that it? We want to bring that excitement you get when you go see a wrestling match. Everybody's there for the same exciting reason. And
yeah.
every time we would go to Las Luchas, it just,
Hmm.
those two Canadian boys, Rainer and Luke, they talk about that feeling still today. They're like,
That's
it's
cool.
just her. Like they just can't handle their excitement. So that's exactly what we hope to bring with
Awesome.
Luchagore movies. Hmm.
That's really cool. Well, we are a pop culture podcast, so I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, what are you currently watching or enjoying reading, listening to? And the last at the end of that, maybe you could tell me what your favorite vampire movie is, because we just had a whole episode about that.
I love that. I'll start with the vampires. You know what? Okay, so I'm a big fan of vampires in general. I love them.
Okay.
So I did give Salem's Lot a chance. And I could see the divide. I could see why people were like, "Ugh," like there was a big divide, and then other
Okay.
people like loved it. And I think because I watched it with my mom and I felt I was gonna watch like another Goosebumps episode, that I was okay with it. I actually
Okay.
laughed in a lot of parts, and I was relaxed and having a good popcorn night with my mom.
Yeah.
And I had a few friends telling me like I hated it. I was like,
Oh no.
oh, I had a great time. Like I straight up said but it's funny how whoever you watch movies with can really kind of influence
Yeah, that's
your
true.
reaction.
Hmm.
And I bet if I watched it with a few of my film friends, I can see myself being like, yeah, man, this sucked. But I loved it. I thought so many sequences were so fun, and I loved kind of how cheesy it was.
Yeah.
Some of it was super great. I loved a lot of the actors. I had a good time. It was something that my mom was able to get through, so
Mm.
that's kind of
Okay.
why.
Okay.
But so that I just watched 2 days ago, but still nothing beats Interview with a Vampire.
There you go.
Let me tell you right now,
Okay.
Antonio Banderas is and Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. It's just the combo of perfect vampires. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a big fan of 30 Days a Night and like a ton of badass vampire movies. There's something about Interview with a Vampire that is so good, so well told. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just one of the best adaptations ever out there. And god damn, those men are handsome. I just can't. I just can't get like I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Blade, but those guys win. Um
Yeah.
so that and then I just finished as of a couple days ago, I finished Monsters on Netflix. It's not a horror, but
Right.
it
Well,
kind of is
it
it
is kind
kind
of
of is
horror.
real horror, right? It's real horror. I thought it was an amazing show. I've been following that case for a while. I've known about it for a while, but
Yeah.
the way that show on Netflix, Monsters, was told, I was a really big fan. I think it was the acting, honestly, because the show, I think if it didn't have the caliber of actors it does, it'd be an okay show. There is nothing like super wow, new and innovating about it, if I may be honest. It was just so well performed, simple, and a really good perspective that wow. Like I was really, really impressed with it. I do like the series before Dahmer. I did like it. I know a lot
Uh-huh.
didn't, but they really worked for me. I think I just dive into those worlds in a way that I just really enjoy the complexity of them.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoy when it's not for everybody. Same with Baby Reindeer. Like I kind of watched the two back to back. So these one-offs series has kind of been my thing lately.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah. So
cool.
that's what I'm just watching real horror,
There you go.
basically.
Well, let that inspire you, right?
Yeah.
There you
And I
go.
do always like to see what is dividing people. Like I'll go see Joker too. I'll go see it.
Yeah. I want to
I
see it.
love the first one. So
Yeah.
nobody can stop me,
There
you
you go.
know. And from there I'll check out Terrifier 3 and then we're even. So clown versus clown. Yeah.
There you go. Clown versus clown. Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today
Of
for this little
course.
talk. I really appreciate it. I always enjoy and love getting other people's perspectives on the world and the way they see it and how you translate that into your work. So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Gigi, for joining us here in Pop Cult X. We really appreciate it. And we'll have to have you back again sometime soon to dive deeper into your films
Let's do it.
and more of the horror element, especially when it comes to the Mayans and Aztec horror, because that's something that I want to get into more.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Make sure to watch VHS 85. My segment's based
Okay,
on an Aztec god of death. So see what you think. And those
will do.
listening, we'll talk about it on the next one.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Gigi, for stopping by, and we'll see you guys all next time.
Adios.